edition of the World Report. I'm Arjun Samar Mahindran. Let's take a look at what's making headlines around the world. US President Donald Trump says he's not looking at lowering tariffs on India 1 week after Washington doubled levies on the country's imports to 50% as a punishment for New Delhi's Russian oil imports. Now, Trump asserted that India has, you have to understand, for many years it was a one-sided relationship. Meanwhile, US Congressman Ro Khanna is the latest one to have hit out at Donald Trump, saying Trump's ego is killing India ties. Take a look.
Are you considering taking away some of the tariffs that you've imposed on India?
No, we get along with India very well, but India has, you have to understand, for many years it was a one-sided relationship. Only now, since I came along, and because of the power that we have with tariffs, India was charging us tremendous tariffs, about the highest in the world. They were about the highest in the world, number one. And we therefore weren't doing much business with India, but they were doing business with us because we weren't charging them. Foolishly, we weren't charging them. So they would send in massive, everything they made, they'd send it in, pour it into our country. Therefore, it wouldn't be made here, which is a negative.
30 years of bipartisan work to strengthen the U.S.-India alliance. He has imposed a 50% tariff on India, higher than any other country other than Brazil. It's a higher tariff than the tariff on China. It is hurting India's exports of leather and textiles into the United States, and it's hurting American manufacturers and our exports into India. It is also driving India towards China and towards Russia. Now, why is this happening? For very simple reasons. Prime Minister Modi refused to nominate Donald Trump for a Nobel Peace Prize. Well, Pakistan did. And India has said that the border dispute with Pakistan is an internal matter, refusing to give Donald Trump credit.
Well, that was Ro Khanna, who's just joined a list of many ex-White House officials as well as US politicians in slamming Trump's tariff tirade. Meanwhile, my colleague Kate Fisher gets us more from Ground Zero.
Speaking to reporters in the Oval Office on Tuesday, US President Donald Trump said the US gets on very well with India. But he reiterated his charge against the country over tariffs, saying that for many years it had been a one-sided relationship, saying that New Delhi has imposed, quote, tremendous tariffs on US imports, he said about the highest in the world, while American markets were open to Indian goods. And as an example of what he describes as unfair trade, he used the US motorcycle company Harley-Davidson, saying that the iconic US brand couldn't sell in India because of a 200% tariff on motorcycles. So Harley-Davidson built a plant in India and now it doesn't have to pay tariffs. He said that is the same thing as us. Now, the US tariffs on India came despite months of negotiations, with US trade negotiators saying they were exasperated with India's protectionist policies. Mr. Trump had set a 25% duty on Indian exports, but doubled that to 50% last week as a punishment for the purchase of Russian oil. Now, the US is India's biggest export market, and those levies have hit more than 55% of goods. Mr. Trump has expressed frustration over India's continued purchases of Russian energy, but New Delhi says it is needed to keep its oil prices low. Critics say that such energy purchases by India and China help to keep Russia's economy afloat and undercut sanctions against Moscow, which are aimed at bringing an end to the war in Ukraine. And on Tuesday, President Trump also addressed that war, saying that he was watching very closely to see how Russian President Vladimir Putin handled efforts to set up a meeting with his Ukrainian counterpart Volodymyr Zelensky, insinuating that he was considering additional measures if talks don't progress. Kate Fisher, NDTV, Washington.
In the US, now we shift our focus eastwards, where China's Xi Jinping hosted a large military parade marking the 80th anniversary of the end of the Second World War. Now, dozens of world leaders, more than 2 dozen, that is, attended the event in Beijing. but almost none from major Western countries. The major moment happened right before the parade even started, when Vladimir Putin and Kim Jong-un stood either side of Xi Jinping as they made their way to the seats, making for a powerful photo op. Here's a report.
Beijing is flexing its military might and its anti-West alliances. And Wednesday gave China the perfect opportunity to do so, as it marked 80 years since Japan's defeat in World War II with a parade through Tiananmen Square. Among the 26 heads of state attending, the star guests included Russia's Vladimir Putin, North Korea's Kim Jong-un, and Iran's Masoud Pezeshkian. Analysts are calling it an axis of upheaval, a bloc whose cooperation has already reshaped battlefields in Ukraine and the Middle East. And now Beijing is taking center stage, presenting itself as a rival to the Western-led global order. Western leaders were almost entirely absent. The only European leaders present were from Serbia and Slovakia. Laser weapons, nuclear ballistic missiles, and giant underwater drones were among the new weapons China unveiled. For Xi Jinping, this is about rewriting history and the future. Beijing insists China and the Soviet Union were the main forces in defeating fascism. In Xi's telling, the US and Europe barely exist in that story. At the Shanghai Cooperation Organization summit in Tianjin just days ago, Putin hailed Xi as a dear friend. A new deal will raise Russian gas exports to China by 16% a year, an economic lifeline for Moscow under Western sanctions. Even Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi has signaled a thaw with Beijing after the US slapped 50% tariffs on Indian goods for buying Russian oil. For Beijing, timing is everything. The spectacle comes just weeks after what Chinese commentators mocked as a lackluster US parade on Donald Trump's birthday. Analysts say China wants to show Washington that if America does parades, China can do them bigger, better, and more powerful. The push is for self-reliance, a great wall of steel designed to counter not just Japan, not just Taiwan, but any Western force that challenges Beijing. And as Xi Jinping welcomes Putin, Kim, Pezeshkian, and others in Beijing, one message rings out. The West may have written the old order, but China is aiming to write the new one. With Ridhima Kedia, NDTV World.
Meanwhile, China Radio International's Anil Pandey joins us for more on this very important development in the East that in fact also has a ripple effect all across in the West, in Washington, with Donald Trump, Mr. Pandey, alleging that Xi is, in fact, conspiring with Russian President Vladimir Putin and North Korea's Kim Jong-un against Washington. What's the larger geopolitical play here? We saw that iconic image of Xi flanked with Putin and Kim Jong-un on either side. What's behind the unsettledness of the American president, Mr. Pandey?
It's a big message actually China has given. As we know that China has hosted a massive military parade along the Chang'an Street here and in central Beijing, and showcasing that country's latest and most advanced weapons that on its 80th military parade, the victory parade. So definitely the North Korean leader and the Russian president and the Chinese president, all the three big leaders were here. So this is the big reason I think this American president Donald Trump has tweeted just a while back that he's furious of this kind of gathering because he wasn't maybe assuming or he wasn't aware of, this scale of military parade could happen. Definitely they understand 10 years ago, China when hosted the 70th anniversary of that victory parade, but that was not that big scale. But right now what we are seeing, the new world order is being written, as you mentioned, because we have witnessed recently the SCO meeting concluded where world leaders were present, including Prime Minister Narendra Modi, where Modi and Xi and Putin has tried the triangle we can say that all the three leaders were together, which world have seen in a different world order, because as we know the Americans has been dominating the world since long time. This is also the big reason that Donald Trump must not be happy with this kind of parade and this kind of gathering here in Beijing. As we have seen, China has showcased big military weapons and also the aircraft, anti-ballistic missiles that can hit up to the 12,000 kilometers, that can literally hit anywhere in the world. So definitely not only China is an economic power, but also military power that Western world is watching, keenly watching on this parade, and also have seen how Russia, China, and India, the three giant powers in Asia and near Europe, can work together. If they are all together, join hands together, this will be a big headache for America and Western hegemony. As we know that Trump doesn't like that kind of attitude. You know, he time and again he says his attitude is not stable, or definitely sometimes he said something and he follows something else. For India,
Right.
for example, purchasing of Russian oil, he wasn't happy with India. Definitely, India has starting purchasing more oil because of America. America wanted India should buy more oil, but now America is not happy, and definitely India has its own national interest. So India is going to follow. So now we are seeing China, India, and Russia, three big pillars and big economies and big military powers are coming closer, coming together. So this is a big thing.
Well, thank you so much for unpacking that for our viewers, Mr. Pandey. And of course, we'll keep an eye out on the latest developments coming out of both Washington and the East here. Now, moving on and shifting our focus, where Chinese President Xi Jinping presided over a massive military parade in Beijing's Tiananmen Square to commemorate the end of the Second World War. He in fact also said that China's rise is unstoppable while unveiling new weaponry, as Mr. Pandey was just explaining in Beijing. Meanwhile, across the northern border in Eurasia, Russian President Vladimir Putin thanked Kim Jong-un on Wednesday for North Korean soldiers courageous fighting against Ukrainian forces. He said, and I quote, "At your initiative, as it is well known, your special forces participated in the liberation of the Kursk region. Your soldiers fought courageously and heroically." Over in Afghanistan, the country is in fact in the grip of yet another tragedy. That's right, a series of powerful earthquakes have yet again reduced entire villages in the Kunar province to rubble. A fresh magnitude 5.2 aftershock has struck eastern Afghanistan just 2 days after a powerful 6 magnitude quake in the same region killed more than 1,400 people and injured at least 3,000 others. Rescue efforts following Sunday's magnitude 6 earthquake have been complicated further by landslides that have blocked roads, making land travel difficult. Meanwhile, helicopters have been deployed to aid for the search of survivors in the ruins of remote villages where many are still feared to be trapped under the rubble. Here's a report.
A series of powerful earthquakes have ripped through eastern Afghanistan. More than 1,400 people are dead, over 3,000 injured. The toll is only climbing by the hour. Entire villages in Kunar province lie in ruins. Thousands left without homes, food or shelter. The 6.0 magnitude earthquake struck as families slept on Sunday night.
بیګا پاوکم 12 بجې زلزلہ شروع شوې ده زموږ د کور دوه غړي چې دي شهیدان شوي دي او کورونه ټول ډنګ شوي دي او کور کې داسې د عصري ځای نشته چې موږ پکې کېنو زموږ سرپناه ته ضرورت دی زموږ چې دی.
Helicopters are lifting survivors to hospitals, but the mountains, destroyed roads and collapsed bridges have cut off many communities.
دا ویل اوس امکان لري چې څونه شهیدان دي څونه زخمیان دي البته دا درته ویل سم چې موږ یعنی د پیښو د مبارزې مدګي ملي ادارې ټیمونه د کونړ ولایت ټیم په خپل د پیښو د مبارزې مدګي ملي ادارې لوی رئیس احمد نورالدین ترابي صاحب د کابل څخه دلته راغلی دی چې سار راغلی دلته کمیټه تشکیل کړل چې په کمیټو کې د صحت کمیټه ده د شهیدانو د انتخاب کمیټه ده د زخمیانو د انتخاب کمیټه ده.
Taliban is pleading for urgent help. Britain has pledged £1 million. China and other countries have also offered aid. India too has stepped in. Foreign Minister S. Jaishankar said he spoke with his Afghan counterpart, conveying condolences and confirming the delivery of 1,000 family tents in Kabul. Another 15 tons of food aid are being sent to Kunur, with more supplies leaving India. But the United Nations warned the devastation could reach hundreds of thousands.
This is a crisis within a crisis. We cannot afford to forget the people of Afghanistan who, as I've said before, are facing multiple crises, multiple shocks, and resilience of the communities has been saturated.
A nation battered by drought, mass refugee returns, and crippling aid cuts now faces fresh devastation. In Kunur's shattered villages, grief runs deeper than the rubble. Families burying loved ones, clinging to hope that help will arrive in time. With Makedia, Bureau Report, NDTV World.
Peruvian authorities on Tuesday said they are investigating the shooting death of an Indonesian diplomat as a contract killing amid a surge in violent crime in the South American country. 40-year-old Zetro Leonardo Purba, who worked at the Indonesian embassy in Peru's capital, Lima, was shot 3 times Monday evening as he arrived on a bicycle to his apartment building. Authorities, meanwhile, say Purba was taken to a hospital but was later declared brought dead. However, officials did not immediately provide a motive for the shooting, but Interior Minister Carlos Malaver told lawmakers that the attack was a quote-unquote contract killing, adding that nothing was stolen. Meanwhile, Peru's Ministry of Foreign Affairs has said that the homicide will be thoroughly investigated and all necessary assistance and protection will be provided to Indonesia's ambassador and the embassy staff. Across the northern border in America, survivors of abuse from Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell met with lawmakers on Capitol Hill, putting further pressure that is on Congress to act to force for more disclosure of the case. Now, a group of both Republicans and Democrats on the House Oversight Committee itself will meet with the survivors Tuesday afternoon. Now, the committee has been conducting an inquiry into exactly how deep the Justice Department handled Epstein, who died in a New York jail cell in 2019 as he faced sex trafficking charges. Meanwhile, several survivors are also expected to join a rally on Wednesday, as well as a news conference with lawmakers who are pushing for a legislation that would, at the end, force the Trump administration to release the case files. Listen in.
Jeffrey Epstein is dead, but his hurt and his harm is alive and well in the daily experiences of these survivors. Maxwell is incarcerated, but it is these survivors, these victims, who are still very much in jail. And they are deserving of transparency, of accountability, and of healing.
And with that, it's time we step into a short break. Much more lined up on the other side. Don't you go anywhere.
Oh, wasn't he lovely? That young man at Avanti Travel Insurance.
Yeah, very.
He was so reassuring. They covered all our medical conditions, you know.
Oh, yeah.
Your diabetes, my dodgy hip.
And the rest.
Even at your age, love. Oh. Love?
Oh, great.
Oh, love.
Avanti Travel Insurance cover most pre-existing health conditions for all ages. That's travel reassurance. Save 20% now. Call or go online.
I knew I should have got the flamingo.
AutoSerge automatically checks for ways to save on your car or home insurance. The Compare the Market app, the simplest way to save.
I'm in. Okay, now, you can have a great first day. I promise, all right? Give me that.
Your donations helped 3D print his heart to guide his surgery and saved his life with a groundbreaking innovation. And the future breakthrough that could cure her is closer than ever. Help us turn science fiction into reality and save more lives like hers. Donate to the British Heart Foundation now.
Discover the finest quality made-to-measure blinds, shutters and curtains at Blinds Direct. A huge selection of beautiful window dressings to suit every room. Handmade here in the UK with a 5-year guarantee for your peace of mind. Order your free samples today and choose your perfect design. Exclusively online, delivered direct to your door. Shop now for 30% off selected products at Blinds Direct. Create your dream home with blindsdirect.co.uk.
If Lubasi was your son, you'd do anything to stop his suffering. He's in agony because he has an eye infection called trachoma. It's often spread by flies, like these. If Lubasi was your son, you'd take him to the doctor. But his parents can't afford to get him the care he so desperately needs. You can. When you give £2 a month to Sightsavers, you can help save more children from agony like this and spare their parents the pain of watching their children suffer. Every month, you'll help our eye doctors get to some of the world's poorest and most remote villages. It's so simple to treat trachoma, but we urgently need your support to do it. So please call 0800 038 4920, text Site10 to 82727, or go to sightsavers.tv to give £2 a month to Sightsavers right now.
Welcome back. You're watching the World Report on NDTV. Now on to updates from the world of business, where Alphabet shares jumped 8% in extended trading as investors celebrated what they viewed as minimal consequences from a historic defeat last year in the landmark antitrust case. Now, last year, for prospective viewers, Google was found to hold an illegal monopoly in its core market of internet search. In fact, US District Judge Amit Mehta ruled against the most severe consequences that were proposed by the Department of Justice or the DOJ, including the forced sale of Google's Chrome browser, which provides data that helps its advertising business deliver targeted ads. On the sidelines of the recently concluded first ever APEC Culture Ministers meet in South Korea's ancient kingdom city of Gwangju, we caught up with the director, Janho Park, of the Preparation and Support Office to take a stock of exactly how the city is preparing for the upcoming Leaders Summit, with the likes of Donald Trump also likely to be in attendance. Take a look. What positions Gwangju as the ideal venue for this year's APEC Leaders Summit?
경주는 천년 전에 이미 대한민국의 수도였던 곳입니다. 가장 한국적인 곳에서 이번 APEC을 개최하는 의미에서 선정이 됐고요. 그런 취지를 잘 살려서 우리나라의 발전상과 문화의 모습을 세계에 보여줘서 세계인들에게 우리 대한민국의 힘을 보여주는 멋진 행사로 잘 준비하겠습니다.
So basically, Gyeongju is the 1,000 years old ancient capital, and we would like to show the authentic Korean places and sites. That's why we have chosen Gyeongju as the host of the APEC 2025. Building on this intention and the purpose, we would like to share the development history and the culture to the world, and we would like to share this power of Korean culture and the Koreans to the world by hosting this event successfully.
And now we shift our focus to the sports universe, where the modern GOAT Novak Djokovic defeated 4th seed Taylor Fritz to advance to the men's singles semi-finals at the US Open 2025. Now, Djokovic won the quarterfinal match with a scintillating score of 6-3, 7-5, 3-6 and 6-4. Now, this victory extends Djokovic's perfect head-to-head record against Fritz. The Serb now has a brilliant 11-0 head-to-head score over Fritz, while also marking his record-extending 53rd Grand Slam semi-final. That also includes a record-tying 14 at the Flushing Meadows. Now, Fritz, the 2024 runner, could not match up Djokovic's standards as the world number 7 secured a victory in just 4 sets. Now we move on to a compelling conversation with Hansel Kwon, also known as Hansel von Kwon, the visionary Korean filmmaker pushing the boundaries of cinema through AI or artificial intelligence. In an exclusive interview, we explored Hansel's bold ideas on the future of generative AI, its ethical implications, and how exactly creativity and code are reshaping storytelling as we know it. All this on the sidelines of the recently concluded first ever APEC Culture Ministers Meet in South Korea's Gyeongju city. Being the first of your generation, so to say, being a pioneer in AI filmmaking, where do you see and how do you see cinema in the next 10 years?
일단 당장 AI 시장에서는 10년은커녕 앞으로 1, 2년도 예측하기 힘들지만 변함없을 것은 AI는 도구로서 사용이 되고 사람이 스토리텔링이나 이런 것들을 기본적으로 창작을 하고 그걸 좀 보조해주는 역할과 그걸 표현해주는 역할로 생성 AI가 사용되는 쪽으로 흘러갈 것 같아요.
So it is really difficult to make predictions in this AI industry, not even like 1 or 2 years, but I bet that AI will definitely still become a tool and the humans are going to become a storyteller and the creators, and we are going to use AI as a tool to make a generative AIs.
South Korea, we shift our focus westwards to the US, where a jury gave Cardi B a quick and absolute victory Tuesday at a trial in the lawsuit of a security guard who in fact alleged that the rap star assaulted her at a doctor's office during the then secret first pregnancy. The jury of 6 men and 6 women at a small courthouse in California's Alhambra deliberated for only about an hour before finding out Cardi B not liable in the lawsuit brought by Imami Ellis, who alleged Cardi cut her face with a fingernail and spat on her in the hallway of a Beverly Hills obstetrician in February of 2018.
And I'm not even playing around. I would, even if I'm in my deathbed, I swear to God, I will say it in my deathbed. I did not touch that woman. I did not touch that girl. I didn't lay my hands on that girl. And with that being said, this time around, I'm going to be nice. The next person to try to do a frivolous lawsuit against me, I'm going to countersue. And I'm going to make you pay.
That's all we have on this Wednesday edition of the World Report. Take care and have a wonderful day.
Rajasthan is history, culture, and much more. And I have been reporting on all things royal for more than 25 years.
The colors, the culture, and the complexities of the Northeast is different from the rest of the country. I have been bringing the Northeast closer to the capital for over 15 years. Madhya Pradesh is the heart of India, and I have been capturing its every beat for over 10 years, covering the corridors of power, what is said, what is left unsaid, and what it actually means for you and me. I have it all covered.
Kashmir is often called paradise on earth, a region that has been in a state of flux from conflict to India's crowning glory. I have been reporting and decoding Jammu and Kashmir for last 3 decades.
When facts are fragmented, we put the pieces together. Where power collides with truth, we are there.
Behind me is that massive security arrangements that are in place.
Behind fractured boundaries, we clear the fog of war. Fault Lines with Gauri Dwivedi, only on NDTV World.
In today's interconnected world, India's voice is more crucial than ever. When India speaks, the world listens. At NDTV World, we are that voice, bringing you intelligent and insightful news from India and beyond. From geopolitics and diplomacy to economic shifts, migrations, tech disruptions, and the stories of our diaspora. We cover the news that shapes our global future. NDTV World, your new home for global news, is here.
Thanks for staying with NDTV. You're watching the Wednesday edition of the World Report. I'm Arjun Samar Mahindran. Let's take a look at what's making headlines around the world. US President Donald Trump says he's not looking at lowering tariffs on India 1 week after Washington doubled levies on the country's imports to 50% as a punishment for New Delhi's Russian oil imports. Now, Trump asserted that India has, you have to understand, for many years it was a one-sided relationship. Meanwhile, US Congressman Ro Khanna is the latest one to have hit out at Donald Trump, saying Trump's ego is killing India ties. Take a look.
Are you considering taking away some of the tariffs that you've imposed on India?
No, we get along with India very well, but India has, you have to understand, for many years it was a one-sided relationship. Only now, since I came along, and because of the power that we have with tariffs, India was charging us tremendous tariffs, about the highest in the world. They were about the highest in the world, number one. And we therefore weren't doing much business with India, but they were doing business with us because we weren't charging them. Foolishly, we weren't charging them. So they would send in massive, everything they made, they'd send it in, pour it into our country. Therefore, it wouldn't be made here, which is a negative.
30 years of bipartisan work to strengthen the U.S.-India alliance. He has imposed a 50% tariff on India, higher than any other country other than Brazil. It's a higher tariff than the tariff on China. It is hurting India's exports of leather and textiles into the United States, and it's hurting American manufacturers and our exports into India. It is also driving India towards China and towards Russia. Now, why is this happening? For very simple reasons. Prime Minister Modi refused to nominate Donald Trump for a Nobel Peace Prize. Well, Pakistan did. And India has said that the border dispute with Pakistan is an internal matter, refusing to give Donald Trump credit.
Well, that was Ro Khanna, who's just joined a list of many ex-White House officials as well as US politicians in slamming Trump's tariff tirade. Meanwhile, my colleague Kate Fisher gets us more from Ground Zero.
Speaking to reporters in the Oval Office on Tuesday, US President Donald Trump said the US gets on very well with India, but he reiterated his charge against the country over tariffs, saying that for many years it had been a one-sided relationship, saying that New Delhi has imposed, quote, tremendous tariffs on US imports. He said about the highest in the world, while American markets were open to Indian goods. And as an example of what he describes as unfair trade, he used the US motorcycle company Harley